We just did a video about rectangles. Which size rectangle's right for you? Well, a new rectangle has entered the chat. The 5000T Tectangle.
NZXT's build is a quick and easy way to get a new gaming computer, and right now they're proud to announce expansion and availability to Australia, the Netherlands, France, and Italy. Build a gaming PC on your budget using the built-in configurator and see exactly how your favorite games will perform. Want to build your own PC but still have the NZXT Peace of Mind warranty? Then the new BLD Build It Yourself kit has what you want. Buy it and build it yourself, and NZXT has you covered. To get started configuring or building your next gaming PC, visit the build link in the description below.
So the 5000T is not... Okay, so we're gonna compare it to a 5000D, which I have right here. So we got 5000D, 5000T, and 5000X now. So you can already tell by looking at the box here that it's clearly a little different, right? It's a little more rounded, it's got some extra vents, looks like a more solid top. This one looks like it's got a little bit more modularity built in, so you can choose between airflow and silence and all that sort of stuff, so you have some options. But it says Mid-Tower Smart Case, or Boiter Smart Monitor. Two-person lift required. I had to undo the little barbs. You know the barbs? Not to be confused with the woman. It's these little handles here. Okay, whatever. I can already tell it's quite a bit different. I like what I see already. So let's look at this. This is a mesh front panel. Is that just, oh my God, that might be the easiest panel to ever clean. 3 RGB fans already installed. You know what else I noticed about this? These are not like the cheapy RGB fans that you would find. These are like light loops. But those are the only fans installed. So there is no exhaust fan and there are no top fans. In terms of connectivity, so from left to right, we got a reset button, multi-port headphone jack, USB-C, 3 USB 3.0 and our power button. Easy enough. So that just pops off. Another filter, which this has 2 tabs. Oh no. Okay, magnetic. Look at that. Nice. So if I was running that as exhaust, this would come out. That's just extra resistance that you don't need on the top when exhausting. RGB strips right here, and that's worth pointing out in the front as well. RGB strips on the side in here. So the side is gonna glow. All right, so on the back, pretty standard. Can fit a 120 millimeter fan. Doesn't look like it fits 140, just 120. Standard motherboard layout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 expansion slots, pretty standard for ATX. Full-size ATX power supply. Dual slot bracket for vertical mount GPU. I wouldn't put a triple slot card here. It'll be too close to the glass in my opinion. But the side panels are hinged, which is something that you typically only see on the more premium products. And they have a screw on the top here which keep it from coming out until you're ready to take it off. I much rather have a hinge because the most common way we've seen tempered glass side panels break is when they have the little nubbins and you have to pop them off. And it pops off and then they drop it and it goes clink on the corner and then it breaks. The rear panel, this is kind of interesting to see. Although not glass, is also hinged. So that just hinges open and you can see the reason why they're calling it smart is the fact that it essentially already has like a Commander Pro built into it. So this is essentially the same Commander Pro like you would find with one of their AIOs. The ones that come with the fans are split. A little fan controller separately from the RGB controller, where this is all integrated. But check this out. So this is not something we've seen come with a case before. We have a temperature probe. So all you gotta do is tape this down somewhere you wanna monitor temperatures. So let's say, for instance, you want to increase cooling when your graphics card goes under load. The problem with traditional setups in terms of being smart is almost all cases or motherboards or anything that controls fans go off PWM with the CPU load. Now we all know CPU load in games is a fraction of what the GPU is going through. Now, if the fans in the chassis aren't ramping up because the CPU isn't ramping up, the GPU is losing efficiency in its cooling because the hot air, especially in the axial style blowers, that's making its way into the case, is not being exhausted as fast as it should be. So what I've got here right here is an RTX 3080 Ti. It can get pretty darn hot, especially with these, the blow through style and stuff. But if I wanted, I could tape this or even just insert it somewhere in the cooler, kind of like that. just like electrical tape down that wire or something, and then when it's mounted, you won't see it. But now we have something keeping tabs on the temperature that's happening right now. It's pretty sensitive. So it'll pick up the hot air and the radiant heat coming off the card. Then you can set your Commander Pro to control the chassis fans based on the GPU as well. And I say as well because one of the things that you're able to do with the software in iCUE is put multiple logic factors built in. If the CPU reaches this temp, do this with the fans. Or if the GPU reaches this temp, do this with the fans. It's not a one or the other. You can have different case scenarios where if one of these devices gets to this temp, here's the fan curve to use. And if one passes the other, then it switches to the other fan curve. So it's nice to be able to have the chassis intelligently do something based on where you set this probe. You could buy these right now, and almost every single ROG motherboard has temperature probes on the motherboard that you could plug this into, and then you could do the same thing with motherboard. But seeing it built into the case is kind of nice to see. Now this is also how you're going to control the RGB on here. These are clearly ARGB strips, front and top, so they're also going to sync with any other iCUE RGB device or anything that iCUE is compatible with in terms of their SDK, so like controlling ROG products and Asus products and being able to sync all of it with one piece of software instead of having to have like Armory Crate running and then iCUE running. So you'd be able to utilize all of that. Everything else seems to be kind of copy paste or copy pasta from any other 5000 series chassis. So we've got the standard block off plate installed right here, which comes off with a couple of thumb screws. And this gives you enough room for your fan right here and a slim rad. If you want to put a 360 rad right here, you can, or a 240, or a 420 if you want. And this amount of depth right here will allow a 30 mil fan. But if you need extra depth, they give you this smooth plate, which goes right there, and then you get this much depth to work with. So you could do like push-pull and a 45 mil, or push or a pull with a 60 mil and have plenty of room for it. In fact, that's exactly what we did with this build. But you see how this has the captive thumbs, and then you have to pop that off and then hope that the front doesn't fall off these little tabs and then hitting the corner? That's what makes the hinge a nice little feature. But you can see this is like the same as that. So if you were to switch it to this, you get all this room here for whether it be fans or radiators or a pump, reservoir, whatever it may be. But if you take a look at the inside though, you can see it really is just copied tooling from 5000 series, which makes sense because it's a 5000 series case when it comes to the inside component. So one thing you might notice too that's different is this sort of a pedestal here that's making it sit a little bit higher. If we look at the bottom here, you can see we have some cutout here that's going to be specifically for our power supply with fan intake from the bottom. It also receives air through these vents right here, but there's also RGB down inside the bottom as well. So in terms of lighting, you're going to get underglow for the Fast and the Furious in you and for family. You get your top glow for top family. Then you've got RGB strips in the sides right here, plus RGB fans in the front for front family. Yeah, but other than that, everything else on the inside is essentially the same. So you can fit ITX, micro ATX, and ATX. I would not recommend doing eATX in here, although you could. This for sure has to come off, this little cover right here. This is designed for cables to kind of come out and then neatly sort of hide behind that. But if you want to utilize the motherboard tray fans, then that piece has to come off anyway. One thing that's also missing from this chassis that the 5000 series has, and I'm kind of okay with it, it's the door. On the 5000 series chassis, typically there was a door that would close right here and to hide all this wiring. But there's no need with a solid panel like this. So I'm okay with that being omitted. I think that was something that sort of existed for the ones that had the glass backing, which is fine. But as you can see, as we try not to chop wires off, but that's fine. The door just covers all that anyway, except for the fan intakes would be, and that's where you have a fan filter and then the mesh right there to let that in. So really, it's not a whole lot that's changed with the 5000T, but it does take from design cue from the T series cases in the past, like the 600T. You guys remember the 600T? We did a build with the 600T with Nick's build. And that's where these rounded edges and this pedestal really kind of take from that design. But overall, in terms of total size, it's smaller than like the 600T was. It's kind of nice to see this, I guess a little bit of a heritage kind of make its way into the more modern case. And I love the shape of this more than the standard rectangles that you're seeing with like the 5000D and 5000X. So you get the same ability to mount a ton of rads if you want. 360 in the front, 360 in the back, 360 in the top available. Mounting all three at the same time would be difficult though, because the thickness of fans and rads, you probably have some interference up front, but you could fit a 360 up front and the top, or on the side and the top, like we did with the other one. So you could have two 360 rads in here, which is more than enough to cool a 3090 and like a 5950X or a 12900K, which is more wattage than the 5950X. I'm looking forward to doing a build in this one, only because it's something as simple as this pedestal right here. Makes it look premium, but without coming at one of the crazy premium costs you find with some of the more one-off design companies that make very expensive chassis, but they seem to come at some sacrifices that you find out later as you're building. This is gonna give you a lot of airflow, a lot of compatibility, the smart features built into it. The fact that the Commander Pro is already there, and that's like a $70 value right there or something like that. The temperature probe, which is awesome. I have no doubt this should go on your GPU, hands down. There's nowhere else in the chassis it's as important to monitor temp as the GPU itself. And the fact that you get 3 of the light loop style RGB fans. I say light loop style because they are not the exact same as like a light loop fan you would get in the box. They share all of the hub design, the RGB design and such, but they are a little less premium because they come in the chassis. So I'd like to see more of these, I guess, on the top. That way they all match. Otherwise you might be changing out these fans for something that match. The nice thing is, because of the hub in the back, any Corsair fan that you buy will just click into that. With the RGB header, it'll be fine. Same thing with AIOs for Corsair. If you put an AIO from Corsair in there, it'll also plug into that hub. So all your lighting is synced. You don't have to add extra modules and stuff, which makes it a whole lot easier. Okay, so the 5000T, built upon the awesome success of the 5000 series, bringing some of the past, I don't want to say vintage design, because it's not vintage at all, but some of the past popularity into a futuristic current case, giving it that kind of a recognizable design, but with all of the future compatibility, as well as all the smart features you would expect to find with iCUE and Commander Pro. So there you go. If you guys want to learn more about this case, link in the description below. Huge thanks to Corsair for sending this to us to check out. And I'm looking forward to doing a build in it. So many builds, so little desks to put them on. First world problems, trust me, I know. But hey, we actually finally have been tearing apart all the builds we've done through the last year here. Actually, Nick's been doing that. So thanks, Nick. He's probably playing Rocket League, I don't know. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow.